So I'm going to play a clip of some more awesome dialogue here. And
Look at you now. Commander of the Northern Armies. Warrior of the Wastelands. I half expected you to arrive caked in grime and mud.
This time frostbite and troll blood.
And demon. Welcome to A Cast with No Name. We are your hosts. I'm Jay.
I'm Matt.
This is episode 20, and we will be discussing episodes 1 and 2 of The Rings of Power, along with our first impressions of the show as a whole. But first, don't forget to comment on our... Well, shit, no. Oh, cut.
Way to go, Jay.
Yeah, we'll just do it again.
All right.
Welcome. Just kidding. Don't forget to visit our website, acastwithnoname.com, where you can comment on episodes and write to our email if you have any questions or if you want to disagree with us. Do it as a comment. Ask us to review anything. You can email us. You can put it in the comments. Doesn't matter. But our email is contact.acastwithnoname@gmail.com. So,
Jay.
I need to let me get this title correct. Okay.
Yeah.
The Lord of the
mess it
Ring.
up.
The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power.
I read an article.
There's a lot of those.
It was titled Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Powers.
The Rings of Powers.
I was like, Jesus Christ. This writer doesn't even know what the name of the show is.
The Ring of Powers. I feel for them. There's too many ofs, thes, ands, us. And
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of filler words there.
Yeah, this was released
3, 4, 5, I don't know.
last Friday.
Yeah, last Friday.
So and they did 2 episodes at a time.
Yep.
Releasing it weekly.
So hopefully you've seen it.
Yeah, if not, go watch the first 2 episodes because that's what we're going to be talking about.
That's
So,
right.
But yeah,
So Jay,
So
were
Matt.
you a Lord of the Rings fan? Like books, movies, any of that stuff?
I watched the movies in theaters, all 3 of them.
Wait, there were 3?
There were.
Damn it, I only saw 2 of them.
Well, actually, I saw all 6 in
That's right.
in theaters.
That's right.
I read The Hobbit when I was in 8th grade, and I enjoyed it.
It's a good book.
I like the book.
Yeah.
I've tried to read the Lord of the Rings books every time.
Really?
Every time I try and read them,
Can't get through them, huh?
I just
not feeling it.
just fucking no.
You doze off?
Yeah.
Have a nice glass of warm milk and
It's a girth.
some Pedialyte.
I get rocked to sleep. But yeah, I couldn't do the Lord of the Rings books, and probably just because I'm not mentally mature enough to read them. I must not have the patience or something.
I put it down on a Millie read 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. Great
It's a
book.
bestseller.
It is a bestseller. Dr. Seuss is a literary genius here.
Yes. But yeah, so I didn't. I wasn't when the first movies, The Lord of the Rings, came out. I wasn't a huge fan. I knew of The Hobbit, but I knew nothing about the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah.
Um,
Isn't that the same attitude you had towards Harry Potter? Like, you hadn't read the books, right? And
Correct.
you didn't even watch the movies until, like, they were out way later, right?
Yeah, well, I saw the first. I saw the first 3.5.
All right.
Because Star Wars had just ended, and my college roommate. I was looking for a new franchise to get into, and my college roommate was like, "Oh yeah, check these out." And I watched the first 3, binged them. I was like, pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw the 4th one, fell asleep, and then I just never. Life happened, never.
Right.
And then saw the 7th movie on when I took your sister out for a date and showed her a good time.
That's right.
Hey,
you want to go to Harry Potter?
Yeah.
That's really gonna get her going.
Yeah. It makes me look tall when I'm standing next to a bunch of kids. Except they were all teenagers, and so they were still taller than me. So we had seen that, and then the last movie, I was like, that was pretty good, and then that gave me the desire to go back and. So, but yeah.
Sorry, I digress.
No, it was. But I watched all the Lord of the Rings in theaters. But I didn't read the books, and I got them on DVD when they came out on DVD, and I watched Fellowship once. My parents bought me Two Towers and Return of the King. I don't think I really watched it again on DVD. It was just one of those long movies. It was, never had the urge to watch it. When The Hobbit came out, I enjoyed that. I read the book. A lot of people hate on The Hobbit. I think it's fine. It's more lighthearted. I like the music. I mean, the characters are good, and maybe it's because I read the book that I tend to enjoy it better. But
so you enjoy The Hobbit more than Lord of the Rings, the trilogy?
For different reasons. I think Lord of the Rings are better movies. I think The Hobbit is more rewatchable because it's more popcorny.
Gotcha.
I guess. It's more lighthearted. It's more fun. It's more a little bit campy at times and stuff, and that's fine. I think Martin Freeman does a fantastic job as Bilbo, and he's probably one of the reasons why
you like it so much.
Yeah, but since
he stole your heart ever since what's that movie called?
Hitchhiker's Guide? Yeah.
Ever since that movie, you're just like
anything
he's in.
Anything he's in. And actually, Love Actually.
Oh
He
yeah,
was one of the stand-ins. I think that was the first thing I saw him in. So Christy and I, we would watch The Hobbit.
Gotcha.
It came out on Christmas. We'd watch it every Christmas, and then she would want to watch Lord of the Rings. So we watched Lord of the Rings. And since rewatching them every year, Lord of the Rings really grew on me to where, I mean, those are just hands down better movies, and I'm enjoying them more and more every time I watch them. So
yeah,
right now I think it's about even, but I like them for different aspects of
Gotcha.
it. But yeah, how about you?
Yeah, I didn't even know about Lord of the Rings until it came out in the movies.
Okay.
Like in theaters. And I like fantasy movies, so I just one day I heard about Lord of the Rings. Oh, it's a trilogy. It's about books, and I'd never heard of Lord of the Rings at all. And yeah,
the trilogy's about books. That's
well,
weird. The Librarian.
Yes.
And the Dewey Decimal System.
Oh man, that would have been a thrilling.
The Return
9
of the
hours.
Index Cards.
Everyone's like, Dewey Decimal System. What the fuck are these guys talking about? You ever heard of Google? But so I never heard of Lord of the Rings, and I heard of this trilogy of movies. They shot it all at once, which I'd never heard of. So I knew, okay, if I go see this movie, I know it's not going to end like it's not going to have like the ending of this.
Yeah.
So there's going to be 2 movies after. So okay, I'll go see it, and I just loved it. I couldn't believe how good it was. And then after that, I immediately got the Lord of the, Two Towers, all that stuff, read it all, loved it, fell in love with the lore, all that good stuff. So yeah, I am a Lord of the Rings fan. I enjoy Tolkien's writing. I think he's a great writer. Like The Hobbit. I enjoy the Hobbits. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's very lighthearted, but I prefer Lord of the Rings. I think it's probably my favorite trilogy of all time, movie-wise, I would say. Yeah. So my expectations for this show, I was looking forward to it because I am a fan. They weren't high, though, because I know what it's based off of. They basically bought the rights to appendices, which, I mean, I'm not that crazy into Lord of the Rings where I read the appendices. Because there's just a lot of characters where...
Because what was it? The Silmarillion?
Silmarillion. I never read that.
Okay.
It's about the Second Age, all that stuff, thousands of years before Frodo and the Ring and all that stuff. So I never got that in depth to it. So when I knew that this show is about that, I got worried because, back to Game of Thrones, there's no story. It's just a description of a character or a race or whatever. So I'm...
where Game of Thrones in the last 2 seasons, you had an outline. They had to flush out.
Right.
You thought it was going to be something similar to where, now they just have bits and paragraphs of random shit, and they're trying to make a story around those canonical items. So now it's essentially fan fiction where it's all on the writers and the showrunners to make a good show. So all the weight is on them, and they're not Tolkien. So yeah, I got worried. I didn't really have high expectations for it going into it, but I still wanted to watch it to see
what was going to come out of it because I am a fan of that lore. So yeah,
I was not like House of the Dragon. I was not necessarily looking forward to this for different reasons. Not that I was concerned. One, I was concerned. I was like, I knew they were basing it off the appendices, and I didn't know if there was a story. I felt like they were creating this show because Amazon wanted something to compete with Game of Thrones or have a Game of Thrones like
which they did
thing, and they bought the rights to it.
Yep.
And I feel like that was the main motivation, not necessarily somebody's passion for bringing a story to the screen. And I think overall things like that tend to suffer.
Right. It's crazy how much money they spent for this IP.
Yeah,
like $250 million just for the rights.
Yeah,
to tell
and
the
then
story.
for each season, I think is about $100 million.
Yeah, 80 to 100 million per episode or something like that. It's 8 episodes.
And it's like $500 million they're planning on spending for
crazy for a streaming show. That's just insane.
Yeah.
So there's a lot riding on this show. They're feeling the pressure over there at Amazon streaming service. I mean, they'll be fine. You have this e-commerce thing going on.
No. Yeah, Amazon definitely won't
fine.
get tears from me or keep me up at night wondering if they're going to make their nut. So
I love people are like, oh, this shows the downfall of Amazon. I'm like, no, I think Amazon's fine. And they'll be just fine.
They're tweeting that as from their Amazon Fire.
Right. What's $1 billion of Jeff Bezos? He wipes his ass with $1 billion bills every day. Yeah, so we both enjoyed Lord of the Rings, the movies. Okay, yes. I think we can. Yeah, I agree. I love those movies. Like I said, it's my favorite trilogy. Yeah.
So, leading up to this, there's been of the release, like there's been teasers, there's been articles, people get up in arms and
it's
shit.
crazy.
Have you followed much of that? At all?
Yeah. Like I said, ever since we've started this podcast, I definitely follow a lot more review YouTube videos. I listen to a lot of movie review podcasts just to gauge where we are, get some ideas maybe, or what are the other, what are they talking about? I don't want to talk about the same things with you.
Yeah.
Maybe just repeat the same shit over and over. It's not interesting to me. So it seems like the community now it's one side is this is the worst show ever. It's not Tolkien, that side. And then the other side is, this is the most amazing thing that's ever come out of any streaming service. It's like the best show ever. Ugh. So, so like anything else nowadays, everything's divided into teams.
Yeah,
and it's
everything's black and white.
Exactly.
Heaven forbid you have a shade of gray.
Right, exactly. So I came into it before watching it, knowing what both sides were, and I just went, okay, is it good? What's the story about? Let's just judge it off that.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
Cool. Well,
yeah.
First impressions.
They're not off to a good start, to say the least. I'm being nice. Very nice. I'm going to be honest, I didn't enjoy it. It's very slow. The dialogue is very cringe. I have a couple clips to kind of back up, have some receipts for my opinions here. And I just don't, I talked to you a little bit about it. I think they made a mistake having the main protagonist be an elf. Just because elves especially in Lord of the Rings, in Tolkien, they're very like wooden and there's not a lot of emotion.
Ethereal beings.
Yes, they're very wise and proper,
graceful. We're not supposed to be able to relate to them.
You're not, exactly. So it to have them be the main driving force of the show and to follow that character, it's very boring and it's not. I was more interested in like the dwarves or like the men, like in Lord of the Rings, like Aragorn or Frodo and Sam, because they had flaws, or Gandalf even. Yeah, Gandalf. Yeah, he's a wizard and he's wise, but he made mistakes all throughout that journey. So I mean, and like the elves in Lord of the Rings, they were a little immature, but you knew that they kind of had an understanding of what could happen, what might happen. They could see in the future, all that stuff. and Galadriel in Lord of the Rings, she was like probably the wisest character and knew the most, and she'd probably be the person you would want to go to for advice on something.
Yeah.
So it's
and I think it's tough, especially to have an elf as your main character. I don't think it can't be done, but picking Galadriel when the episode 1 opened up and she was making her little ship, and I was like, oh, okay, she's going to be not just a character, she's going to be a main character. I immediately had flashbacks to the prequels for Star Wars, to where you had Darth Vader, and you like Darth Vader, right? Yeah, he's cool. Great. You want to see him as a kid? What? No. Hey guys, you like Boba Fett? Yeah, he's cool. Great. You want to see him when he's a kid? No. And I the same thing, to where they are removing the mystique behind that character, because she is probably one of my favorite characters in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
Oh yeah,
I especially love it. I mean, I love it so hard when she goes into PMS mode.
Really hard.
And the colors in verse, and she starts talking.
I'll be the greatest of all time. You are all bowed to me.
And love that. Love her character. I like the unspoken romance between Gandalf and Galadriel, to where you kind of felt like they had something in the past, kind of a thing. And
she's the only one who calls him Mithrandir.
Yeah, and
it's like her sweet nothing, her term of endearment.
Yep,
sweetheart, babe, darling. Yeah,
I like that. I'm not opposed to learning more about those characters, but having them be a main character, an effective protagonist, a main character, you need to give them flaws. And I think that's part of what I enjoyed about Galadriel was, sure, she probably had flaws. I don't need to know what they are. She probably figured them out thousands of years ago, which maybe this is kind of what that story is going to be doing, to where it's going to show her arc into, which they would have a way to go. But I don't know. It's a concern, because you're taking a very beloved character and that you're starting to peel away everything, and it better be good.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, you run a high risk of ruining the character, as opposed to still having the character but not necessarily focusing on that character. So that is a current concern for me. Overall, my first impressions, I agree with you. I don't think it's off to a good start. I think they 10,000 foot view. I think they're hopping around too many people.
Too much.
The first episode especially. I mean, it hopped 5 different storylines or however many it was, and I didn't care about anybody.
Yeah.
At the end of the first episode,
yeah.
And that's not that shouldn't be. In this day and age. Before, I would give 4 episodes for a TV show.
Yep.
And that's just to kind of get into the feeling of the show. You don't have that luxury anymore, I feel like, especially with as many shows as there are and movies that come out. You have to engage people quickly, and I think they failed on that aspect of it.
Yeah. I think of the first episode of Game of Thrones, where they didn't hop around at all. It all took place in Winterfell. And it was all just getting to know the characters. They needed to do that with this. They could have just focused on...
They did the same thing with the House of the Dragon. They focused on the king, his family.
And that's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
One setting.
Yeah.
And I feel like they needed to do that. Obviously, all these different people are probably going to meet up at some point.
Sure.
Be a new fellowship or whatever. But
I worry that they're going to... The main hook to the show, because the writers are Bad Robot disciples of J.J. Abrams. Like they co-wrote Star Trek Beyond, and executive producer of it was from Bad Robot too. They just have a tendency to want to
Fuck me.
like
Really?
center the story around like a mystery. Like, and I feel like what
Should
they're
have known at the end of the second episode when they open up a fucking
exactly
Pulp Fiction box.
exactly. And what'd you call it? The Giffen or
MacGuffin.
MacGuffin?
The just show us the fucking thing.
Exactly.
Like it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like
so the focus isn't on the characters. They like to focus on like the mystery of whatever. Like I think what they're gonna do is
because they can't write fucking characters.
there's gonna be a mystery about who is Sauron, which I already have a theory on who that is, and then what's in the box that the dwarves open up.
Gwyneth Paltrow's head.
And what they're building.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always it's going to be subverted. So you think it's the Arkenstone when they open up the box? It's probably not going to be the Arkenstone.
It can't be the Arkenstone because
right.
the Arkenstone wasn't discovered until I think it was Thorin Oakenshield's grandfather.
Right.
Was during his reign.
One of the
miners found it. And that was
way after
this because we're introduced to Durin.
Yeah.
And Durin's day, which is like a fucking dwarf holiday.
That's right.
I mean,
it's a
Durin's
dwarf
like
holiday.
a 30-year-old, or no, Durin's probably 50 years old.
Yeah.
I think he says he's lived a half a
Yeah.
century.
Well, his dad in the show is Durin. I think Durin the first. He's Durin the second. Yeah. Yeah. So, but they're trying to, like, because you are a fan of The Hobbit, they're gonna be like, oh, the audience is gonna think this is the Arkenstone, and we're gonna subvert their expectations. It's gonna be something else.
Common fucking sense knows it's not
well,
the Arkenstone.
I'm telling you, that's what they're
taking
thinking.
a shit right now in my pants.
Right.
Is what I'm doing.
The stranger that comes out of the comet, they want you to think it's Gandalf, and it's probably not going to be Gandalf. It's probably going to be somebody else. And then, who is Sauron? And I have a feeling like I know they're going with the guy that's on the boat with Galadriel. I think that's who's going to be Sauron at the end of this show. Just because he's the one you would least expect it, but they hint at it. With the dialogue on that boat when the worm's coming, and he says something like your looks can be deceiving or something like very obvious. I can't remember. He said something like, "Oh, looks can be deceiving." Like, who is she? Blah blah blah. And he's like, "Oh, looks can be deceiving." And I'm like, "Oh my god." I'm like, "That's a tell." I'm like, "What?" And the way they shot it too, like a close up of his face, like. The rest of that scene, he was kind of like at a certain like distance away, and then for that specific line of dialogue, they centered on his face and they were closer up. I'm like, they wanted you to focus on that line of dialogue for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. They did a different camera tactic. I'm like, oh my god. It's like a very subtle thing that I noticed. And I'm like, oh my, is this what they're doing?
Would they be doing that? Because I
think so. That's how I feel. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm predicting.
Because, well, yeah, I guess they could. Because I'm trying to think, because Sauron's been around for a
while, yeah.
For a couple hundred years.
Right.
Yeah, what?
Because she's been searching for him for hundreds of centuries, and she can't find him, and maybe he's just, fucking with her or whatever. Like, oh, I'm right here under your nose. I'm Sauron.
Like a douchebag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well,
I didn't know it was the same writer. Fuck me in the fucking...
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's only 2 episodes. I mean, like I said, my first impressions are it's slow. The dialogue's cringe, and it's just hard to recapture the magic of something that everyone likes so much.
Yeah.
And you're always comparing it to that, so they have that at a disadvantage.
What do you think the number one... What do you think some of the weaknesses are?
All right, can I play a clip here?
Yes. No.
Like I said,
you're not.
Like I said, I have receipts here. This is an example of the dialogue that I was talking about. That is,
what is this clip from?
It's from the very first episode. It's literally 5 minutes in. It's the longest somebody speaks, and it sets the tone, and I just couldn't believe how awful it was.
Okay.
And here we go.
Do you know why a ship floats and a stone cannot? Because the stone sees only downward. The darkness of the water is vast and irresistible. The ship feels the darkness as well, striving moment by moment to master her and pull her under. But the ship has a secret. For unlike the stone, her gaze is not downward but up, fixed upon the light that guides her, whispering of grander things than darkness ever knew.
I mean, what? It reminded me of, how can I say this? You know when you were like middle school and your teacher was like, okay, we're going to write a poem. All right, it needs to be like 7 lines and it needs to have this in it and it needs to rhyme a couple times and have it be about like your day. It's like, they're like, okay, writers, you need to have some dialogue here that's 30 seconds that needs to be impactful and maybe like a soliloquy of a metaphor.
Something unique. And
right.
You felt...
I wanted to sound like Tolkien.
Yeah.
Like, this is just not it.
You felt like the writers were trying.
Really hard.
Yeah.
Really hard.
Something else that bothered me in that scene also is right after young Glandriel asks, well, the water... It was the most awkward sentence I've ever heard in the human language. I wish I could find it, but it was... How do you know which way to look? Because the darkness reflects on the water as much as the light reflects. Like, it was so...
Hold on.
Do you have that?
Yeah, here we go.
Sometimes the lights shine just as brightly reflected in the water as they do in the sky. It's hard to say which way is up and which way is down.
I see what you're saying. That is confusing.
Yeah, I mean, it just felt awkward. Like, listening to it again, I was like, okay, I guess it's not that bad. I'm kind of a tard, but it was just an awkwardly worded thing.
Right.
But she asked that question, and I don't know if you're like, and then his response, he whispers in her ear. I wanted to punch myself in the eye. I hate when characters whisper something when no one else is around them. There's no need to that just comes off as creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I'm just gonna start doing that to people. Like, I'll be at work, and so, did you guys get those reports in yet, or how are projections looking? And I'll just kind of lean forward and just whisper something in their ear, and walk away. And I'll just do it in a meeting, and everyone will be like, "What the fuck is wrong with them?" Like, it takes me out of whatever I'm watching when people do that, because it's false, not conflict, but false mystery.
Yeah, anticipation.
Yeah,
mystery. You're right.
It doesn't make sense for the character to whisper it in her ear.
Yeah.
It comes off as weird.
Yeah.
Like, the fuck, you just fucking say it. I'm right here. They only do it because they know people are watching this story.
Mm-hmm.
In a book, they don't do that. It's like, oh, whispered something inaudibly in the ear, which is going to be a callback for which I'm like, all right, this is going to pop up sometime later. It's supposed to be impactful. It would have worked better because they replayed this whole dialogue at the end of the
first episode. Yeah. And you heard what he whispered in her ear.
Yeah, and then that's when they reveal what he whispered. But they replayed everything else too. So it's like, I remember this dialogue.
Yes,
I watched it 50 minutes ago. I'm not an idiot.
Right.
Just don't whisper it. Just say what the fuck you're going to say, because at the end, because his response was, sometimes you have to touch the darkness a little bit to tell, or something to that effect, to where you have to experience both.
You have to experience darkness to know the difference.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And they could have just ended the scene right there, and you're like, oh, okay. And then at the end, if they're going to replay that dialogue anyways, just all you'd have to do is just replay that clip if you want to replay something like that. But I would think audiences can remember something that happened an hour ago. But that opening scene that was the thing that bothered me about the opening scene. I just hate when they whisper for no reason at all, other than the fact that they want to hide something from the audience.
Right.
And it's, what you have to say is not that interesting, to where them not saying it at all is more interesting, then just don't fucking say it.
Yeah, and a lot of the dialogue, another thing that griped me was the characters like to describe things that are that you're seeing. Like, they'll describe a tree or a person or the situation itself. One thing that comes to mind was like, you know, an elf and a human have never been together in all the years. Like to drive home, hey, this romance is forbidden. When you already knew that, in the scene prior, you don't need to explain it to the audience.
Or in the movies prior,
right? You don't need to explain it.
Yeah,
I understand it. Or when Galadriel is in the Elven city or whatever, and I have a clip here on it, just to again it goes into why I don't think an elf should be the protagonist, because these are the conversations that you have to fill the time, and it's just, oh my god, you can't do this. And it's just describing things around her. Like, I know, I see it. You don't have to describe it. We see it.
Yeah,
we see it. So I'm gonna play a clip of some more awesome dialogue here, and again, it drives home. I mean, you just can't. I just don't agree with centering the protagonist around elves. They're just not interesting enough.
Galadriel.
Elrond.
Lindonelje kavalisanen.
Lisanen mikavna.
I hear it said that when you cross over, you hear a song, one whose memory we all carry. And you are immersed in a light more intoxicating than any sensation in all of Middle-earth.
When I was a child, it was the only feeling I knew.
And look at you now. Commander of the Northern Armies, warrior of the Wasteland. I half expected you to arrive caked in grime and mud.
This time frostbite and troll blood.
and semen.
Yeah, so it starts off. They're looking at the the light of Valinor when they go home. It's a light. And I'm like, yeah, I can see it. You're looking at a picture of it on carved in wood, and it's just.
No, I understand. They had a lot of that dialogue, and there was a horrible movie called Goodbye World. And
I've never heard of that.
Well, there's a reason. The people compared it to like The Big Chill.
Okay.
And it was something happens like a computer network, or I don't know. It stars the daughter in Hook and Vinny Chase from Entourage. And
Adrian, what's his face?
Yeah, and so it's a bunch of. It was written by people who probably went to Brown University.
Okay.
But like you have these group of friends that are together, and they would have dialogue to where someone's having doubts about themselves or what they should do with their life, and then you have another character come in. Are you kidding me? Yeah, you're so and so. You've done this. And you've done this. You got in a debate with the dean at our college and won. Like that was a line, and I'm like, no, you didn't.
Right?
No, you fucking didn't. And I hate dialogue that just exposes how great somebody is. And fucking show us. Just show us.
Right.
Instead of talking. And they did quite a bit about that in these two episodes, especially with was it Nori and Poppy. And which, by the way, did they go out of their way to find two women that look like Frodo and Sam?
I think so.
I mean, they didn't even try there. Like, there were some shots I was like, it's fucking Frodo.
It's Frodo, yeah.
It's fucking...
Yeah. Well, and they're called Harfoots. They can't say Hobbits because they don't own the rights to Hobbit. They have to call them Harfoots because of that.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was different.
No.
Great. So we're getting flavorite versions of
it's what was that
races
pop,
in
what
this.
was that pop called that was like not RC Cola. Maybe it was RC Cola.
Fago.
Fago. Yes.
Fago.
It's like Fago. Your mom was like, "It's Pepsi, it's Coke." I'm like, it's Fago.
This is Mountain Mist. I said Mountain Dew. But they did a lot of that to where when the guy falls out of the sky or the wizard falls out of the sky, and Nori's like trying to help him, and then Poppy's like, "Oh, what are you doing? Why are you always doing this?" And I was like, "The dude like fell like 10 seconds ago."
Yeah.
Like I feel like that would be a conversation like 3 days after she's watching him.
Right.
And caring for him and stuff like that, to where it starts becoming a burden and a hassle.
Gotcha. Yeah, that would be smart.
To where and watch that scene, because as Nori's going down into the crater to go get him, I shit you not, Poppy says, "Nori, I see your face. What are you thinking?" She has her back to her. I was like, you don't see her face.
I didn't notice that.
It just like occurred. I was like, what the fuck? Like it was like probably some ADR track or something like that.
Gotcha.
And because it was a wide shot, nothing needed to be said. But they were wanting to hammer home that Nori likes to look after people. Show us that.
Right.
And then have that conversation of, why are you doing this? It's who we are. No, it's who you are. I get it. She's caring. You're not. I understand. Like, it's the over-the-top dialogue to, like, really hammer home what the writers are trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not done well.
Yeah.
And I think part of the problem probably is too because they're hopping around to so many different storylines, and so they have to cram all this shit in there, and they don't have the luxury to really build out these characters immediately, which is ironic because it's television, and you have a lot of time to fill.
Yeah.
But no, I get what you're saying with that, with those dialogues, and it's irritating because it just takes you out of it, and it makes you feel stupid when you're watching it.
Yeah, I thought the dialogue was pretty good once it got to the dwarf scene, because I probably enjoyed the dwarf scene the most, because I like the two actors. I don't know who plays I know it's Durin. I don't know who plays him, and then Disa, right? Is that his wife, Disa?
I believe so. Yeah.
I think. I know there was a lot of, this show had like, it's diversity for diversity's sake or whatever the case may be, but Disa was probably one of the more enjoyable parts. I thought she was really good.
Yeah, and I've heard legitimate arguments for adding the diversity for diversity's sake in the story, because it's based off Northern mythology, and I get that. I'm not a hard enough fan to really give a shit about that.
Me either. I don't care.
The only thing that bothered me was, and it was the first time I saw an image. Here, I'm trying to find her character's, Durin's wife. I don't know that.
Durin's wife.
Is that misogynist of me?
Yeah. Disa. I'm pretty sure it's Disa.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
So the first time I think they had like Empire, I think had a photo shoot, and they had a photo of her.
Oh yeah.
I
understand.
And
the promo photos.
Everyone got up in arms because she was black. The thing that I noticed first time looking at that picture was, a hobbit.
Oh, you thought it was a hobbit?
I thought it was. I thought she was a hobbit, and then they're like, "Oh no, she plays a dwarf." And I'm like, and the very first thing that popped into my head was, I believe it is Gimli that said, "The wives have beard, like dwarf women have."
Yeah.
Because he was talking about Galadriel, and he's like, "Nah, too hairless for me," or something like that. My women hairy. And
sometimes dwarf women are mistaken for dwarf men.
Yeah, where it's the beards that give it.
Yeah.
And I was like, she doesn't have a beard.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing that popped into my eyes. I was like, I thought dwarf women had beards, which I think would have been interesting to see.
Yeah.
As a race of.
I thought she had some sort of like a soul patch. Like when I was rewatching, I'm like, does she have like hair on her face?
I think she just might have a pronounced chin or something.
Maybe, I don't know.
But yeah, they could have done it to where it was like more subtle. Almost like not a total chin strap thing, but just like longer sideburns or something like that. To where it, like, if you glance at them, they almost would have more masculine features. But no, I enjoyed her a lot, and actually, That was one of the things I brought up because the first episode Christine and I watched, and she's sweet on everything. So she's like,
Oh, Christy,
yeah,
yeah.
it's
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's an optimist.
Yeah.
I haven't beaten that out of her yet.
She hasn't.
She thinks the
instilled that in
world
you.
is sunshine and rainbows and everyone's nice. And so I'm trying to bring her down.
Yeah.
Uh,
I want her to live in my
level.
nihilist bubble
Yeah.
for a little bit.
I want you to understand how horrible
Yeah.
life is. But no, so she's like, yeah, it's pretty good. And I told her, I was like, it didn't feel like Lord of the Rings
Yeah.
or The Hobbit. It felt like generic medieval
Fantasy show.
fantasy show.
Yeah.
Like I felt like it was a offshoot of Willow almost.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And even though Willow is more entertaining than the first episode of this one was, it wasn't until the second episode when Elrond goes to visit Durin.
Khazad-dûm or whatever.
Yeah. And that scene, I have a clip for this. So
Oh, you wanna put it
it's they do the rock breaking
Yep.
competition, and if Elrond loses, he's banished from all dwarvish kingdoms and mines forever. He's just banished.
Right.
And he loses, and he asks Durin, who's supposedly his friend, hey, can you walk me out?
Remarkable. I never dreamed to find your city so changed.
Well, 20 years will do that.
Has it been only 20? Just tell me your secret.
Our secrets are our own.
Durin, have I offended you?
To answer that one, we'd need a longer lift.
If you wish to discharge me without explanation, that is your choice.
Bet your feathery shirty tights.
But before squandering the best opportunity any dwarf princess had in a generation, you might at least listen to the proposal I bring.
Ah, there it is. The true purpose of your visit. You want something.
I journeyed here to see my friend, whom I've greatly missed.
Missed? You missed my wedding. The birth of my children, 2 of them. You cannot barge into my mountain and demand I welcome you with open arms. You cannot claim that which you discarded.
Discarded, Durin,
20 years may be the blink of an eye to an elf. But I've lived an entire life in that time. A life you missed.
So I feel like that was probably the best interaction
Yeah.
between two characters in the first 2 episodes by far.
I thought that. So I'll get into the rhythm and music and stuff because I thought this show did that awfully, terribly. But that scene there, it started. I was like, okay, the music is where it needs to be. It's the right tone. They got it. I think they got it right at that moment for that piece of dialogue. The rest of the show, no, not good at all.
That scene and then the scene immediately following, which we have a clip for that, is the first time it felt like a Lord of the Rings, a Hobbit story.
Right.
Like felt like in that universe because it had, at least with this scene particularly, one, I think it does a better job showing the background of these characters more so than any other. One, Durin's a new character that you meet in this episode, but you find out more about Elrond, and it illuminates his past in a way that is interesting, and that would put you in a position to where you wouldn't mind finding out more about Elrond's past, especially with his friendship with Durin, to where it's I don't care if Galadriel went and did all these amazing things and someone tells me about it later because we never saw that.
Right. Yeah.
These two, when they're on the lift going up, I mean, the acting's well done, but you can feel that friendship. And you can feel the guy who plays Durin does such a remarkable job of expressing that emotion of losing his friend for 20 years and not having that connection.
Yeah.
But it also informs the viewer that elves are in a different, not existential, but like
They experience life differently
than everybody else, to where he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go visit my good friend Durin, and he has no idea that he's just been away way too long.
Yeah.
And that elves forget how time moves for everybody else. I think it's very well done. And that was the first time I was like, okay, now we're getting into the swing of things. And I want to find out more about these two.
Right.
So go ahead and play the second one.
Apology to Disa, and you're off. No getting better acquainted. No reminiscing about the past, and absolutely no staying for dinner.
Understood.
Oh, beard.
No!
This cannot be Elrond, can it?
I fear so, fair lady.
Durin didn't tell me you were coming.
Durin didn't know.
I've been remiss in not visiting sooner. An oversight for which I am here to humbly ask forgiveness.
You're staying for dinner.
He's leaving.
He's staying.
He's leaving.
He's staying.
Hey! I told you to stay out of my head.
I told you we monsters to stay in bed. Oh, come on. Dare that Gamley. Come on. Hurry along. Make yourself comfortable, please.
But not too comfortable.
Gamley, please.
Takes us to the salt pans, the both of you. Keep trolls and stalagmite spiders.
So, and that was the first time I actually did the humor in a proper way.
Yes. And the acting too.
Yeah. And
And that's why you need an elf to interact with someone other than an elf.
yeah,
Because there's
they're-
some gravitas to the scene. There's some character to it.
and
It's more entertaining.
yeah, elves are meant to be supplemental characters.
Yes.
They're not. They're not people you relate to.
Right.
Because they are too wooden. They're too stoic. They're too.
Almost too perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Not a lot of flaws there.
yeah, people can't tend to not relate to that. But that was the first. This episode and those two scenes were the first to really that I felt. I was like, okay, this feels like a Lord of the Rings kind of a thing because it has that lightheartedness, has the seriousness, and they're not. Even when they were angry, or when Durin was angry at him, it wasn't. I guess they're not being shitty for being shitty because that's what the scene requires. It was believable for that character, and it wasn't. And he wasn't being mean to him to get back at him with revenge. He was being mean to him and disregarding him because he was hurt. That his friend didn't come and visit, and he missed his wedding. He missed the birth of his two children because he wanted to experience that with his friend. And that, I think, is one of the things that Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit does so well, and why I think a lot of people are fans of those, because the people and the characters in these stories are what people would like, act how people would like other people to act. They act with honor. They act with emotion, and they feel sadness. I mean, they're very believable people, and I think that's why a lot of fans gravitate to these stories, because one, it's just the age-old. What am I trying to say? It's just that classical storytelling to where, yeah, they're flawed, but they're always striving to be better.
Right.
And it's not people aren't being petty in these stories. They're always acting from their heart and from what they think is right, and to some higher purpose. So
yeah, and it was the few interactions where I really cared about the characters. All the other storylines I just didn't care.
yeah, because I don't
didn't
know them.
care.
Which I didn't know. I mean, I knew Elrond,
Yeah.
but I didn't know Durin. That I think they nailed that. But now it's at a point to where it's dangerous for the show, because I'm interested now in those two characters
Right.
only.
You're not interested in the main protagonist.
Yeah.
I don't care about Galadriel's journey at all at this point.
Yeah.
Right? They've set her up so terribly. I don't care about Arondir and I don't even remember her name, the human that he's in love with, because they just kind of jumped into it. They could have built it up throughout the whole season, but they kind of just jumped into it and like, oh, they love each other. How do you know? Because they gaze longingly at each other.
And he wants to say something, but he can't.
But he can't. I'm like, oh my god, are they just didn't have the dialogue, or did they think the actors couldn't handle it? Was there no chemistry if they spoke to each other? So they're like,
set too many people up.
I mean, I could care less about them.
I think what probably would have been better if they wanted to introduce all these different characters, give them each an episode.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And really flush them out.
And it's funny because these writers...
Flush?
Yeah, flush them in the toilet, Jay. You just flush this whole...
Like a turd.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where turds go, right?
Yeah, so it goes clockwise.
Unless you're in Australia, then it goes the other way.
Yeah, the other way.
Right.
So.
Well, what I was going to say, Bad Robot, one reason why I did like Lost is they did dedicate a single episode to like one character. Mm-hmm. They would spend the whole episode on that one character, and then the next episode, the next one, and then the next one. You wouldn't even get to another character interacting with another character like until 8 episodes down the line. So they would build the backstory of every person, and they would flesh it out in one episode dedicated to them.
I think they should have done that. If they wanted to have all those different storylines, that's the way they should have gone about it.
Yeah.
Now maybe they were afraid to do that because people won't stay. They need action now. They're not going to be able to. They won't. It's like they've made 6 movies that have a following of people just fucking walking.
Right.
I'm pretty sure they'll stick with a season of a show.
Have you ever seen?
If it's done right.
Have you ever seen Clerks 2? Or
never seen Clerks 2.
They're fighting over the.
Yeah, even the trees walked in that.
Randall.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
But I think they just went about it completely wrong. I think, or figure out who the story is about. I mean, if it's about Galadriel, it's a misstep.
Because you're supposed to feel for her because her brother was killed by Sauron. And that's what motivates
I don't
her.
care.
I mean,
he was in one scene. He whispers in her ear like a creep.
It doesn't fit with the nature of an elf. Like, it doesn't fit with their nature. Their nature isn't revenge. It goes beyond anything that describes Elrond or Celebrimbor or any of the elves that you read in the book. They're not motivated by revenge because it would be all too consuming, and they're smarter than that. Yeah. They're wise.
They wouldn't too long,
right?
For that to be an
they
issue.
know what the effect of revenge would be on like the soul, so they wouldn't waste their time with such a petty feeling. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if it's just going to concentrate on. I hope it doesn't do a lot of this hopping. Yeah, because it's just going to be instances of God, I don't care about this. Yeah. Oh, now we're back here. I don't care about this. Yeah. And there's only one thing that I care about, and it's Durin and Elrond.
Yeah, I know. Their relationship.
I want to see what they did.
Yeah.
And that built
because now it seems like they're on, they kind of like each other. At least they're on the path to.
Well, they always liked each other. It's just like his dwarves are stubborn and like that whole thing.
Never trust an elf.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of getting into the other aspects of the show, I thought it looked like a TV show. It didn't feel like just a massive like production that $500 million was spent to produce.
You
know what I mean?
I kind of disagree.
Really?
I think the show looks great.
Okay.
There's some shots in there that I was like, Jesus, green screen. That stand out. But I like the practical effects of. I think there was a shot of an orc, and it looked like an orc from Lord of the Rings, as opposed to the orcs from The Hobbit.
You're not talking about the orc that was in the cabin.
No.
Okay, that orc looked terrible.
No. It was at the beginning, it was during the narration or something.
Oh, okay,
yeah. Like a quick shot
the
or
battles
something. Maybe
stuff.
it was footage from something, I don't know. But previously shot footage or whatever. But I think the set design's fine. I think the scenery shots are fine. I mean, I think it looks pretty good. I think it looks slightly better than The Hobbit. I mean, The Hobbit had a bunch of shot in 48 frames a second, and so and they were doing it in 3D, and they were doing all this shit. So I mean, all that stuff suffered. But I feel like it looks fine.
All
I
right.
mean, it doesn't look as real and gritty as what Lord of the Rings does, but it doesn't feel as polished and fake as what The Hobbit does.
So you feel like it's in between?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. I disagree.
Okay.
I think
you're wrong.
I think the fact that you're saying it's fine, I'm like, well, $500 million. If I was Jeff Bezos, I'm like, I spent $500 million fucking dollars on this. It better not look fine.
But I think it's
And-
$500 million across all the seasons. So it's
just
like
this season.
just this season?
Yeah. Well, it's $250 million for the IP, and then it's like $80 to $100 million an episode. There's 8 episodes.
Jesus, really?
Yeah, it's very expensive. And another thing why I feel like it looks like a TV show is because I'm watching House of the Dragon at the same time, and that feels more like a movie in a lot of aspects. Like I feel like the production design is better. I think the effects are better, both practical and digital. It just looks better than this does, and they didn't spend nearly as much money as Amazon did for this.
Yeah, they really skimped on the director though.
You talking? Who? Lord of the Rings?
Yeah. Is it J.A. Bayona?
Boyana?
Who did
Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom.
yeah, the iconic
That's
Fallen
right.
Kingdom.
Yeah.
But okay. I will say the music is god awful.
It's bad.
And I think that is the main reason why I feel like it doesn't feel like a Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
It feels they went to Pond 5 or some other music website that you could get generic royalty-free music, and I feel like it's a cheap imitation.
Yeah.
The opening credits that they did for episode 2 sounded like, of course, Howard Shore
did it, yeah.
did it. And
But I didn't like the main title. It was like, da-da-da-da-da. It was like a cheap transition.
Oh, yeah.
Where I'm like, it feels like a soap opera intro, kind of, with the way the titles just came in. It was just weird. It didn't feel like, you know how Lord of the Rings came on. It was like, da-da, and it was like this gritty, like ancient letters that came up and stuff. It was like it was forged like in the granite. This was like a digital. It was. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I think the music missed the mark completely. I don't. Excuse me. Completely missed the mark. It didn't sound like Lord of the Rings. House of the Dragon nailed it. They had different the arrangements of the theme playing throughout the episodes, and this I felt like it was just generic.
Yeah.
I don't know if there just wasn't enough strings or if they weren't capturing the mood right. Because I feel like it was like super intense when it shouldn't be super intense.
Yeah.
And it was other times I just wouldn't notice the music. It wouldn't support anything that was going on, and I think that was probably the main reason why it didn't feel like. And I'm not expecting them to reuse the score from the movies, but they're spending this much money on the TV show.
The score should be a little bit better.
Just give fucking Howard Shore to do it.
Right.
And hey, we need it sounding like it, but not be The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. But we need a theme for these characters, theme for these characters, theme for these characters, theme for this situation, theme for this situation. Like, and they could reuse it or different arrangements of it. But at least I feel like getting him to do it would have been able to produce that sound a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because the main title song, I think
it's okay.
It's fine, but it sounded like it belonged in that story.
Yeah.
It's not the best. I mean, obviously, they probably gave the guy 2 weeks or a week to make
and
something. But
the score in Lord of the Rings, it's to me, it's iconic. Just the score, like it's you recognize it right away. And so the way they did the dialogue with the music, it's not. There's a rhythm to it that, like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, just it enhances the dialogue and the performance. Of course, I'm gonna play a couple clips here where I'm you can hear it, you can see the rhythm, the dialogue's better when they're in conjunction and they have that rhythm. It just amplifies the scene.
Yep.
And of course, when you have Elijah Wood and Kate Beckinsale, two great actors, or you have Ian
Kate
McKellen.
Beckinsale.
Sorry, Kate Blanchett. Jesus Christ, there's too many fucking Kates.
You like movies?
Too many Kates.
Bosworth?
But I mean, the acting's obviously better in the movies because the actors here they're okay. There's some moments where it's like CW acting, like Galadriel especially, and then got Rendir and what's her face. It's very soap opera-y, like overacted.
Let's listen.
Yeah, let's listen to this.
I pass the test. I will diminish and go into the west and remain Galadriel.
I cannot do this alone.
You are a ring bearer, Frodo. To bear a ring of power is to be alone. This is Nenu, the ring of adamant, and I am its keeper. This task was appointed to you, and if you do not find a way, no one will.
Then I know what I must do. It's just... I'm afraid to do it.
Even the smallest person can change the course of the future.
I mean, come on. The dialogue's great. It's not over. Oh God, it's not over descriptive and just
overwritten.
rambling.
Yeah.
You know, and then you could hear the subtleties and the music and the differences when they're going line by line. It's just really well done. Here's another example from The Hobbit. That's a perfect scene with the same thing. Of course, Ian McKellen just knocks it out of the park here.
Saruman believes that it is only great power that can hold evil in check. But that is not what I have found. I found it is the small things, everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keeps the darkness at bay. Simple acts of kindness and love. Why, Bilbo Baggins? Perhaps it is because I'm afraid. It gives me courage.
You hear the Hobbit thing as he's talking about I mean, come on. Yeah. It's really well done.
Makes me want to watch The Hobbit.
I know. It's good. And that just wasn't there. That was missing from the show. That, you know, maybe it's not their I mean, you gotta go up against just fantastic filmmaking. I mean, good luck.
You're pulling a story out of your ass.
I know.
So
you don't have Peter Jackson writing lines. You don't have Peter Jackson directing. You know, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, which you had Peter Jackson working. Was it when he did Lord of the Rings? I think he was in pre-production for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
How long were they working on this?
I have no idea. Like
Probably
they bought the
not
rights
that long.
literally 2.5 years ago.
Yeah. So
yeah,
they weren't working on it.
No.
For 3 years.
Definitely not. What do you think of the so some nitpicking stuff? What do you think of like the over pronunciation of like places and names like Galadriel, Varanor, Mordor?
There's a dialect coach that's standing off camera that's like just rubbing their nipples as rolling their R's.
It reminded me of like MasterChef. Like when Gordon Ramsay's like, you know, making beef Wellington or risotto, and then the Mexican chef goes in there and they're like, it's like Mexican themed, and he's like, yeah, what I really like about this is the cilantro on the taco and the cheese, how it melts in the quesadilla, and you know how they go in and out of like
or they're like, so what you're gonna I see, you're gonna take that cornmeal, you're gonna grind it up, you're gonna probably add a little bit of egg yolk on there, you're gonna make an authentic tortilla, and they over enunciate, which. Yeah.
It's like, just say taco. Listen, it's okay. If you were speaking Spanish, okay, I got you, but when you mix in, it's like I don't respect you more, and I'm not like, oh man, he's really authentic. He's really pronouncing the word.
See, well, I don't know. I think I'm in the same boat because
It's kind of distracting.
I have a very Midwestern way I say. Well, of course, all my friends make fun of me the way I say milk. They're like, it's
Milk.
yeah. They're like, it's M-I-L-K, not M-E-L-K. I was like, no, it's milk. And like, no, you're saying it with an E. And I was like, oh, like you. So I need to say milk. Like I sound like
milk.
an angry German. So whenever, what my daughter will milk, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll get you some milk. Let's go get some milk.
Milk. Well, Jay, it's
Ilk.
mill. You know the word mill? M-I-L-L.
You know the word
mill.
ilk?
Yes.
Ilk? Milk. Heinz milk.
Yes. Mordor. They just roll. It rolls off the tongue. All of them saying that. I almost laughed out loud when they're going to Valinor, and like they see the light, and then in unison, they all start singing. I laughed out loud because it was funny.
Is that? I'm assuming that's where they're going at the end of Lord of the Rings when they all hop
I think
on the boat.
so. Yeah. They're going to the far west or whatever, to the lands of the light, or yeah.
That's what I thought it was. I didn't think they were going through a different
dimension.
Yeah. Like fucking sky opened up and I was like, Jesus, this is suicide, guys, right? Like they're killing themselves.
Yeah.
Like, am I wrong there?
Yeah. No, they're going across the, what is it, the narrow sea, or is that Game of Thrones? Am I getting
that's Game of Thrones.
Shit. The narrowing sea, the sorrowing sea. I don't remember. But yeah, it's to the west. Valinor.
Yeah, that didn't look like any fucking continent I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I'd be jumping in the fucking water too. Like, no.
Did you love that? Galadriel's Michael Phelps. Just, you know what? I'm not doing this. I'm gonna swim 3,000 miles that way.
And that boat was cooking too. It wasn't just like
I know
a lackadaisical way of going across the sea. That thing was
like that's how
humming.
perfect. That's how perfect elves are. They don't even need to row. They just need to stand there at attention, and the wind just goes in the direction. They don't even need to adjust the sails.
Yeah, she started swimming back. I told Chrissy, I was like, Jesus, I hope the fucking current's with her.
I know.
If not, she'll be swimming for hours and not move anywhere.
Yeah, and just comes across a deserted ship or whatever. I mean,
I got Waterworld vibes on that.
Did you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
The
It felt like lazy storytelling just a little bit.
Felt like something had to happen.
Yeah. We can't just show her swimming, right?
Like,
we can't have a whole episode.
Is that believable? She's gonna swim?
I mean, she's an elf, right? So anything's possible.
Like they couldn't have just had her just like go to the boat and then decide not to get on.
That's true.
But then she wouldn't have met with Sauron.
That's true.
Or potential Sauron.
It's Sauron. I already know it. I'm calling it. It's bad reboot. Sorry, bad robot.
I bet.
Whatever.
I bet it'll just be some stupid love interest.
You think?
Yeah.
They already have the elf and the human love interest going on.
He is the ancestor of Viggo Mortensen.
Oh, Aragon?
Because they talk about their king not being there. I think that's who I thought it was.
My country has no king.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting strong Aragon vibes then.
Yeah. I feel like that's going to be his ancestor, and they are going to. They already make the sword that cut off Sauron's? No, they didn't.
Not yet.
That's who they make the sword for.
So
I'm pulling shit out of my ass.
He's the great grandfather of Isildur or whoever.
Oh, well, I don't know. How many? When does this take? It's like 5,000 years.
2,000 years. I don't know. It doesn't matter at this point. Yeah. It's a long time before.
Yeah, but
yeah. They have a long way to go for me to make up for just how bad it started off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
It's not a strong start.
No, I can't recommend it to like a casual like if I was like, to my dad, for instance, like I would say, Dad, you could watch House of the Dragon, you would enjoy it. I think he would like it. This, no, he wouldn't like it.
Yeah, because they're banking on people knowing something about the story, because it's definitely not, as a standalone story so far, it's not working at all.
Yeah. And Galadriel's just like the worst leader. She's like, we need to go back. He's fallen. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep going forward. She's the whole time. He's like, I think we should go like now. Nah, we're not doing that. I mean, all the men want to. They followed you for 200 years. They don't want to do it anymore. Oh, fuck them. I'm the commander. Great leadership. Great leadership, Galadriel. Yeah. You're top notch here.
But it shows her determination.
Well, not painting a good light
at the expense of her character.
Right. Right.
So.
You want to root for her. You want to like her. She's not likable in this show. Yeah.
Yeah, they got some heavy lifting to do there. The two Hartfoots.
Hartfoots, yeah.
Whatever the fuck that is.
God, their Irish accents, they need to calm down. I don't know what part of Ireland they're basing it off of, but I've never heard them all talk like the Lucky Charms. Like the guy from Austin Powers. They're always after me, Lucky Charms.
I wonder, are they from
I don't even know.
Ireland? They might be. I'm going to see. Shit. I don't know. I'd be interested to see if they're. I would be surprised if they were actually from Ireland.
If they're from maybe the UK or something, or like
or something
England,
to where, because it sounds like a fake. All right, so Nori's from Australia.
Oh boy.
And Megan Richards, who plays Poppy, doesn't say. I'm guessing.
She's
guessing
from Jersey?
Australia. But yeah, it sounds like a shitty Irish accent.
Yeah,
to where
yeah.
everything ends on an up note. And
yeah.
How do we go? Oh, the luck of the Irish. Oh, I'll give you another Guinness, would you? Oh, my lady. Oh, thank you, sweetie. Oh, go down to Colleen.
Oh, you're the apple of your mother's eyes.
Oh, smash me testicles on the fucking mule again. Maybe I'll go and eat some potatoes and then. Half my family comes from Ireland, by the way, so it's all right.
They're good people. They're good people.
Oh, the fighting Irish. Oh, Mother Mary. The smoking and the talking and the parking and talking. And then we go into Sweden.
Yeah, then we're in Swedish. We're in the Swedish
chef.
Swedish chef from fucking Muppets. Well, I think in the dwarves are like Scottish. They got like Scottish accents,
which they always kind of tended to have, and because I think each of these races were inspired by
the
different,
UK.
Northern Europe, and obviously elves, the Netherlands, and I'm waving my arms around like a
Finland, Sweden,
yeah,
Denmark,
like you know how you guys wave your arms,
yeah.
And then, but yeah, so. I think that's where they kind of base the accents on, which I love the Scottish accent. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is good.
So you wouldn't recommend it to a casual viewer? Would you recommend it to a Lord of the Rings fan?
Not right now.
Okay.
I'd have to, because I don't want to disappoint. I wouldn't want to like. We'll see where it goes. I mean, we're gonna watch the entire season, and I mean, I don't want it to fail. I want it to be good.
Yeah, I'd like it to be good too.
I don't want to waste my time watching stuff I don't like.
I told Christy, I was like, I'm gonna give it one season. Typically, I give shows 4 episodes. This I'll give 1 season.
It's 8 episodes, so
that's not too bad. So
I only got 6 more to go here.
I'll give it 1 season. See how it does. If I feel like I need to care more about the characters, or something needs to happen. So yeah, I agree. I would like it to do well, because I like those stories. I like the themes that those stories have, and I mean they're just wholesome and fun. And but yeah, I like it to do better. I'm gonna give it 1 season. Hopefully it sticks to the landing at least, or something. If it does this mystery box shit. To where, ooh, what does this mean?
Who is Sauron?
I'm gonna shit on the fucking carpet, and I'm not gonna watch it. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I wouldn't recommend it now, but I decided after the 2nd episode, I was like, I'll give it the season.
Yep.
And
yeah,
if it doesn't grab me by then, it's the show's fault instead of, because I want to watch it. I want to be interested in it, but if it's not giving me anything to.
It hasn't really given you anything to you don't know what the end goal is. Where in Lord of the Rings, like the whole entire first 10 minutes where Galadriel's giving the exposition, all you need is 10 minutes. You get the whole back history.
Yeah, you know what? You know where it's going.
You know, okay, this is the ring, right? That everyone's after, and you got to destroy it or the world's gonna end.
And that's the thing. That was the other scene too. Is when Elrond goes to visit the jewelry maker, who I'm imagining is the guy who's going to be forging the rings, the power rings.
Oh yeah, Celebrimbor. He's tasking him to he needs some dwarf subcontractors to build a tower to forge whatever.
When that happened, I was like, oh, okay. Obviously, yeah, duh. Rings of power. It's going to be about the creation of those rings and them distributing them out to the 9 kings of men and the dwarf lords and
the elves and all
the
that
elves
stuff.
and So I thought, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm kind of interested in that. And then, so like that storyline with the dwarves, I'm kind of hooked on a little bit. Like, I'm interested in it. But everything that Galadriel's doing,
yeah, I don't care if Galadriel gets her revenge.
Poppy and Nori,
it's okay.
The elf and the tavern lady who leaves her son randomly, just ran. Oh, I'll ride with you because the power of female boners. And I screw my son that's at home.
Yeah.
Won't let him know.
Great mother.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll start taking shape. But I want them to tell a story, not that stupid freaking mystery. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Bad robot and all that.
Bad robot disciples. I mean, and that's my honest opinion. I'm really not trying to shit on it just because that's the trend or anything. That's how I honestly think.
And that's
of
the
this
thing.
show.
I didn't know they were involved, but it makes sense with what I've seen so far.
Yeah.
And I don't need mystery. They didn't do that shit in the movies. Just
no, you
just tell a story.
Yeah.
Just tell a good story, and you don't need false intrigue to keep viewers. If you do, then your shit sucks. Which is part of the reason why I didn't get into Lost.
Right.
I tried watching it and I couldn't do it. I was like, this is.
Yeah, it kind of fell off the cliff after the 3rd season to me. It didn't end very well either.
No. Well, not a shocker there.
Well, that's the mission statement for Bad Robot.
Yeah, fuck the ending.
Yeah. Fuck storytelling. We're all about the mystery here.
Yeah, mystery. Oh, see, I created a mystery box.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power.
Yep.
Hopefully it'll be better. Maybe we'll check in at the end of the first season.
Yeah.
Do a total review.
We could. Maybe we'll watch a couple more. We'll give you an update.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jay, I'm telling you, if all right, I'll give it this season. All right? But if after episode 4, I'm like, it's just not getting better, I might be like, I don't know if I want to watch it anymore.
I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, some like forcing yourself to watch something like that just isn't good.
Yeah, it's just not there.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
Like Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan what was the shit? I forget.
Topi one.
Topi 1 Kenobi. Topi 1 Kentopi.
Yeah.
But
well, I appreciate that because I might have watched Obi-Wan and then you told me that it wasn't very good and I'm just not gonna waste my time.
I'm gonna watch something that's complete dog shit. And I'm like, dude, no, just it gets better.
Give it time,
dude. The last episode, and then you're gonna
makes
be like,
it all worth it.
What, really? And you watch it. What made it a bit? Nah, it sucked. I knew it sucked.
Thank you, Jay.
All right,
greatest prank ever.
So, yeah, keep watching it, listeners. Do you have a different opinion about Lord of the Rings? Did you really love it? Did you really hate it? I mean, me as a whole, I'm indifferent right now.
Right.
It's bland.
Yeah. At its best aspirations right now, it's just mediocre.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't hate it. I don't love it. I liked certain aspects of it, and I did not like certain aspects of it. So we'll see how that pans out. But yeah, if you had a different opinion or whatever, let us know. Are we wrong? Are we correct? Are we missing the mark on something? Let us know.
Well, Jay's wrong.
I'm always wrong. That's how I roll. Wrong. let us know. Comment on our episodes or shoot us an email. But join us next time as we go step back into superhero films a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about one of the most anticipated movies of 2022, Sylvester Stallone's superhero film, Samaritan. So that'll be the next episode.
That's going to be what we're talking about.
That is going to be what we're talking about. So if you guys haven't seen Samaritan, you can watch it on Prime. Go ahead, check it out really quick, so that way you can be on the same page as us when we talk about it next episode. Yeah.
Till next time, Jay.
Till next time, Matt.